a few minutes. Good evening, everybody. Welcome once again to another edition of Swerve with Me. This is a show where we have adult conversations for mature audiences only. I'm Miranda Innes, and it's a pleasure for you to join me once again tonight. As you come in, as usual, I'm inviting you to tag somebody, invite someone to come in and let them know that we are live tonight and in living color. So, we're going to have a really interesting conversation tonight with someone who has done some federal time, as they say. We're going to hear his story and how his life has been transformed and turned around. We're going to talk about his experience in prison. We're going to talk about what he did, why he landed there, and more importantly, what has he been doing through the process and what he's doing now in his life. So as you come in one by one, come on and like and share this live stream tonight because it's definitely going to be one that's going to be enriching. So my guest tonight is someone who, like most young men growing up in the inner city, they've had their share of challenges, and they've done some daring things, and some things they got caught doing and some things they didn't get caught doing. This young man tonight just happened to be one of those who actually got caught. And you'll hear more about his experience tonight. I want to introduce to you Denver Pratt, who is a father, who is a husband, who is a minister in Fellowship Missionary Baptist Church. And he'll tell you so much more about himself. He's involved in prison ministry and is just doing so many things to be able to help offenders and ex offenders to get their lives back on track. And so he's also an author and the author of the book From Prison to Purpose, the Denver Pratt story. So, those of you out there, welcome to the show tonight, Denver Pratt. Good night, Denver. It's good to see you.
Well, good evening and good night, Miranda. I'm so excited to be a part of your platform, and I thank you for having me here tonight.
Definitely, it's my pleasure. We spend a lot of time on the show highlighting people who have overcome their challenges and are not afraid to share their stories and to speak their truth because the whole premise is what you've done before, somebody has done before you, and somebody will do after you. But if you can avoid, if you can help somebody so that they don't have to have the same experience as you did, or to help them handle the experience that they may be going through right now. This is why we do what we do. So, Denver, you were born and raised Nassau, Bahamas, grew up in the area called Yellow Elder, the subdivision. I hear a little feedback. If you have a speaker that's open, can you turn it down a little bit? If something
hmm
is open, because I can hear some feedback.
Okay.
Yeah. So, grew up, I still hear it a little bit. I don't know why. But you grew up in Yellow Elder, and tell us what was life like growing up in that inner city, and explain where it is for those persons who may not be familiar with it.
Well, Miranda, growing up in the inner city of Nassau, particularly like you said, Yellow Elder, particularly Deber Road, was sort of interesting way of coming up. The reason I say interesting because if you're familiar, Miranda, with the inner cities in Nassau, it's like sort of like a close net neighborhoods. And so growing up, everybody kind of know everyone, so it was so close that I could remember we sometimes never used to knock to go into our neighbor's house. And if you were really close, you can go into the house and just go into the park and start taking up food. And so that's how close the neighbor was in my intercity. In my community, Miranda, I got to saw the good, the bad, and the ugly. I mean, coming from a family of 10, being the youngest, I get exposed to a whole lot of things because in the inner city, as a young boy, you would see different type of individuals in the inner city, and so you were open to a whole lot of different things.
So, what was some of your influences growing up? I know you were raised in a single parent home with your mother and your siblings. Good night, Pressy Wallace. Good night, Bila May Fowler. Good night, Jobo Mendez. Good to have you. Tell us, what was life like growing up in your household? Because you said you were the last of 10. So, what was that like?
Well, growing up in a household of 10, being the youngest one, Miranda, it had the good days and the bad days because you were the younger one, and all of your siblings were there to take care of you and give you things and make sure that you do what you were supposed to do. And on the flip side of that, Miranda, they were the same ones when you did wrong, you would get chastised by all of them. So it has its good and it is bad, and they took turns of raising me. Especially when my mother wasn't there, she passed away from cancer. I came from a single family home. Father was absent in the home, so my brothers and sisters had the challenge of raising me, and they did the best that they knew how to do.
And so, how old were you when your mother passed away?
Well, I was in the seventh grade, so that would have made me about 12 or 13 years old.
So let's talk about that. Your mother passing away, and now you're left in the home with your older siblings to raise. How did you make the adjustment from obviously being the baby of the family and your mother paying attention to you too? I guess nobody could fill her spot. So, what was that like for you? And did you seek that kind of comfort anywhere outside of the home?
Well, Miranda is the passing of my mother was is I describe it to someone that was like someone taking a steak knife and just putting it and died and jicking me in my heart. That was a great loss, not only for me being the baby, but for my entire sibling. So here it is, the woman who birthed us is now left us, and now we now have to defend for ourselves. And my older siblings take on the role or the guardian of raising me. I don't believe no one else could have filled her spot, even though how hard she tried. She was a dedicated mother. She was a hardworking mother. She was one that a waitress working over PI, so she had to get up early in the morning and catch the bus to go to work, come home, make sure that the home is take care, cook, clean, and all of that. So Miranda, she wear numerous hats in our house. So when her absence was definitely a void.
Mhm. So, as a result of missing your mother, I just heard something. As a result of missing her, what did you or who did you gravitate to, I would say, outside of your sibling unit to find the kind of comfort and support that you needed?
Well, when I look back, Miranda, you asked a question: who did I gravitate? I would say that I really learned. I lean on the Lord, so to speak, because there were two things that my mother said to me on her dying bed, and when she knew that her time was drawing near, and I paid very close attention to that. She said, "Baby, I want you to do two things for me, because I'm not going to be here long with you." And the two things she said to me, I want you to obey your siblings, listen to them. And the second thing that was more important, she said, put God first. Never
Mhm.
forget those words. They stick to me like glue. And so these are the things that I kind of hold on to and go to when I'm feeling down, when I miss her. I gravitate to that, and that kind of to give me hope, and that kind of give me momentum to go on.
Good night, everybody. If you're just joining us, we're talking to Denver Pratt, who is the author of From Prison to Purpose. Good evening, Big Brother Arlington Harris, as he's watching. Deborah
Yeah.
Pratt Anderson, good to see you. Cicely Roberts, always good to have you with us. Let's
Mhm.
talk a little bit more about your story, Denver, because even though your mother left you with those words of wisdom,
Uh-huh.
you didn't always stick with God. You didn't always walk with Him and do as you were instructed to do. And so at 12, you're impressionable. And no doubt you want to be a part of. You want to be a part of whether it's an organized gang or just want to be around people that you connect with. So let's talk about being in high school, being in the neighborhood, your friends, and what was your community like after your mother died?
Well, Miranda, like I said, the Yellow Elder Derby Road community was one of those close knit communities, and a lot of different things happen in the community. Like I share with you, you see the good, the bad, and the ugly.
So
My school.
let's talk about some of the bad. At 12, what were you seeing? Let's talk about that.
Well, at 12 years old, being in the community, you would see the different gang members. You would see the different guys who were robbers. You would see the different guys who was on drugs. You would see the different guys who were involved in selling drugs, and this was like an everyday thing that you going to school and coming from school that you would see on a regular basis.
Did you feel the pressure to become a part of that culture?
One of the things, as I look back and you asked the question, did I feel the pressure? Having learned from my mother and my brothers and sisters who were trying to teach me right and wrong, there was a pressure of trying to fit in, and if I look back and looking at not having the right mentor in my life. So what happened? The drug dealers and the gang bangers and the guys who were doing the wrong things, they were the ones, Miranda, that I kind of look at and trying to emulate, especially the guys that are involved in the drugs, because they seem to be the ones, Miranda, that getting all the attention. They seem to be the one that have all the fancy cars, have all the women and the jewelry. So that was something that I looked up to.
Mhm. So in junior high school, what's your first recollection of actually uh, being around drugs physically? What's your first recollection?
Miranda, my first recollection being around drugs was when I was in I think the 10th grade. There was one of my schoolmate. He always used to come to school, always clean, always sharp, and always having a fresh pair of clocks. Like clocks was the number one thing back then. He would
Mhm.
ride a motorcycle to school, and when I pass him in the hallways, his pocket always was full of money. Like we say over here in the Bahamas, man, your pocket looked like it get the mumps. So I would ask him on one occasion, I was like, why, how come every day you always have all of this money? And he would just smile and he say, man, you need to come to my hood, and I would tell you. So one day I decided after school to go to his hood and find out what exactly how he make all of this money. And to my surprise, him being in school, he was involved in the drug game. And so at that time it was crack cocaine, and he said, this is how I make it, and this is how I put food on the table, not only for me and my family. So there, that was like one of my first introduction to the drug game.
So he was in 10th grade. Was he selling drugs in school or out of school?
Actually, I didn't never see too much of it in school, but I think he was selling it on his block. Yeah, at a very young age.
So you saw this. Your thoughts were what
Yeah,
when he
I
exposed you to
saw
what
it.
you saw?
My thoughts was, wow. I mean, if he could do it, and he's making all the money, maybe I can do it. So it kind of prompted me to start diving into it and finding out the ins and outs.
So you ask him how to get involved with it?
That question came about, and one of the things that he showed me, basically how he done it, how he get it together, and how he package it and sell it, and he was kind of walking me through it at that time.
So this was an organized. This wasn't just a little boy who was hanging out on the corner doing something. This was an organized effort to get drugs out on the streets locally.
Yeah, the area that he would live in, like he said, he came from a very poor family, and so he feel that the only way that he can make money is to sell dope. And to keep in mind, Miranda, you have to understand that in our community in the Bahamas during our at that time, and from the 60s on up to the 90s, the Bahamas was known for a transshipment country with drugs. So even though the drugs were passing through the Bahamas, there was still some was ending up in the Bahamas. And so for a young boy, his mentor looking up at the drug dealers was a way for a young boy to actually really come up in the hood.
hmm So when did you get your hands on your first bag, or I don't know what it's called, but what was your first experience of actually selling to somebody, if you did?
Well, my first experience was I would say was kind of, when you're doing something like that for the first time, you was kind of curious. You was kind of, I would say a little bit scared, because here it is, you selling something that you never sold before, and the individuals that are buying it, you don't know who it was. But I was kind of getting a little bit of coaching on how to go about it,
Mhm.
and it was very interesting the first time. And when I saw the transaction happen, it made me think that, hey, this is something that I can get used to doing.
How much money did you make the first time, like when you
Well,
sold whatever?
the first time was not a lot of money. I would say a couple hundred of dollars at the first time, because one of the things that in the drug game, even though is an illegal business, Miranda, is still a business. So if you don't know how to invest in that business and what they call turnover, and if you make the money and blow it, that means you're not a good business person. So most of the times you see individuals in the drug game, they'll make the money, but they would blow it.
Okay, so you're a teenager with hundreds of dollars, and you go home. I'm sure your siblings, the older siblings that were in the house with you, must have noticed some changes in you. Or
Well,
were
at
you
the time,
able to keep it away from them?
yeah, at the time, usually I would try my best not for them to know, because they would have been very disappointed at me, because they were trying to steer me in the right direction. So I would try to keep it, like they say, on a down low, so they don't know.
hmm So once you got involved with with selling on a regular basis during school? This is like high school. Um, did it impact your grades or your relationships with your friends or anything like that?
Well, as I reflect back at my school years, I would say that I'm trying to be an A student. A student, I wasn't there because I didn't really take my schoolwork seriously. I really could remember some of my teachers were saying that a lot of times that I think one or two of the teachers would call me a class clown. So they say if Denver would ever apply himself, he can become a productive student. So I wouldn't take it as seriously that I should have took it.
So, did you sell drugs throughout your high school time, like high school?
It was often on during my time, but it started to continue as I left school.
Yeah, so let's talk about that because you graduated from school
Yes.
and you had an opportunity in a career as a chef, and you were actually in training in college in the hotel training school. Let's talk about that experience being there and why you left it.
Miranda, one of the things that I find myself going through junior school and high school, that one of the subject that I gravitated to very, very closely was the home economic cooking class. And I did that pretty good. Some of the teachers took notice. Some of my family took notice. I can remember one of my grand aunt, cousin Ida, was she told me a story that when I was 3, she had to beat me away from the stove because I would take the chair, go into the stove, stand in the chair, and scramble egg. So
Wow.
at the age of 3, yes, at the age of 3, I was trying to cook, and then as I continue, it became close to me. I would do good in the cookery classes, and at the 12 year, my last year in high school, I remember taking the GED, and passing it. And so one of my sisters saw my liking for cooking, and she asked me a question that Denver, what is your plans after school? And I didn't really had an answer for her, and she said, I noticed that you like cooking. Would you like to go to a cooking school? And she sort of pushed me into that area. Really, I didn't really want to go. I really didn't want to go. I wanted to pursue other things, probably in the streets. But she convinced me, and she told me, she used to work over PI, and she told me that if you took the test, the sous chef or the executive chef will pay for your schooling to go to the hotel training college where I work in the go to school in the day and work in the night. So I did it because of her, not knowing that I would pass, or they would call me and say, okay, you pass. And so I could remember receiving a phone call and say, Mr. Pratt, we want you to come in for an interview. So they interviewed me, and they told me, we are going to make sure that we'll pay for your schooling. And I started to like it. I did it for a while. It was I believe was a 3-year course. And I was in my, I think, I did a year and a half, and then I
Mhm.
decided to not to do it and pursue other things.
And what was the influence that caused you to skip it, to stop doing that? What happened?
One of the things that really caused me to stop doing it is I can remember Miranda going to work, coming home tired, working hard in the kitchen, because I don't know if you know about the kitchen in the hotel. You work hard, and so some of my peers would be home on the blocks, and I'm telling you, with pocket full of money, and here I am catching the bus to work and from work, and I'm coming home and seeing these individuals making money. And so I'm trying to figure out what's really going on. You know what I mean? So I'm working hard, and but what I didn't notice, Miranda, I didn't see the big picture. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? I was just looking at the moment. And so I can remember one day cold turkey, I just decided to, just say to myself, I'm not going back. I want to go in the drug game. I want to make the fast money. I see it. So that's what I wanted to pursue. So I just stopped.
So, what did your sister have to say about that?
Well, my sister, she was very disappointed. My siblings, they were very disappointed because they saw that the potential in me. I had the potential of becoming something, maybe like executive chef, if I could continue to stick with it after all. So they were very disappointed in my decision.
So, you stopped going to college, and so what was the next step? The plan was
Well,
to what?
the next step was I had different other jobs in and out, didn't last too long, but I was still considering trying to get in the drug game, because like I say, being a young boy growing up in the hood, in the Bahamas, most of the times you see individuals that was in the drug game. Yeah, you had business individuals like the nurses and everything, but it seems to me that those individuals in the drug game stood out a little bit more.
Because those are the persons you were around most. What once you got in, you made this decision, this is what I want to do. What was the role that you were playing? Like, were you the guy who someone would pull up to on the blocks and buy something from, or what was your role?
When I look back at it, growing up in the drug game, as they say, as from a small, selling little weeds and stuff. I noticed it didn't really last too long, and I kind of sort of graduate, like they would say, to the next level, and kind of being sort of like what they would call like the middleman, and getting introduced to different other individuals that were taking it to another level.
So, for those of us who don't understand the drug culture, what does that mean to be the middleman?
Well, one of the things is that when you look at the middleman as someone who would take it from one point to the other to another point.
You're talking about actually transshipment. That's what
Yes.
you mean? Okay.
Yeah.
So you were one of those persons who was transporting. Okay. Which brings us to, so you did that, and I guess you did it successfully at a point where let me ask you this. What kind of money were you making being that middleman? Like, what would be an average job? How much money would you come home with?
Well, I would say, it depends on what transporting I was doing. I would say it would be thousands of dollars, when you're taking it from one point to another point.
So thousands, like what? 2,000, 5,000, 10,000.
3 to 5 thousand. It depends on what you yeah.
So you're like what, in your 20s, early 20s at this point, and your thousands of dollars are being passed through your hand. What are you doing with this money?
Well, Miranda, you have to understand, being a young guy, not knowing, not thinking about the funds that you're making. So all you're doing is trying to buy nice clothes, tennis, just have a good time and just blow your money stupidly. You're not really thinking about trying to make some positive investment. So as they say, easy come, easy go.
Mhm.
So that was sort of like the mindset that I would say most young guys in the game usually had. Just you just make it fast and it go fast.
What would be the period of time in terms of like if you did a run today, like how soon would the next run be? Was there an organized effort like every 2 weeks, every month, or if you could just get a call randomly and something happened?
Well, sometimes it varies. It depends. It could be week or it could be every month. What happened? It stuck. Mm, mm, it frees up on it. It frees up. Yeah. She gone. I don't know what happened. I'm gonna see it get old and go back in it.
All right, guys, we're back. Sorry for the interruption. I don't know what was happening, but we were talking about the. Thanks for hanging in there. Don't know what's going on
Right.
technically, but we were talking about the frequency of which you were doing these transshipments.
Yeah, as I was saying, yeah, it could be weekly or monthly, depends on when the call came in.
Okay, and let's talk about the shipment that landed you in prison.
Uh huh.
Explain what happened, where were you going, and how much stuff did you actually have?
Well, Miranda, like I say, moving from the small amount and then graduating to another level, I was really in the game where now I was a part of making it, taking it overseas, and so I can remember this day
How
very
old were
vivid.
you at the time? How
I
old were
was
you?
about 27, 28, around there. And so I remember this day very vividly, August the 27th, 1998. My partner and I, we were in the Atlanta area, and we are getting ready to go I think in the area of in the Carolina area, and we were heading on I-75. And we have made this trip numerous of times, so we know what to do.
Mhm.
We know the speed limit. We know not to swerve in and out traffic and all of that. So we've done this a numerous of times, so we know what to do. And so we were just on our journey, doing what we know how to do best. And Miranda, halfway through our journey, we were we were pulled over by an unmarked state trooper, and we were concerned, and so he pulled us over, and he came out and he said to us that the reason we pull you guys over because you were swerving in and out traffic, and he wanted to just give us a citation, or he wanted to give us a warning. And
What
so
kind of vehicle were you driving at the time?
it was
Or
a
he,
rental. It was a rental vehicle
hmm I mean,
at the
like, what
time.
was the brand? Was it a sports car or just a
I
regular?
don't think it was a sports car, because usually a sports car would have probably what I would say, we would have stick out in a sports
Right.
car. So we really didn't want to go that route. We want to get a a sort of average
Okay.
car, so we can sort of blend in. And so he pulled us over, and he said, he give us a warning, and then he said, okay, by the way, could he wanted to search our vehicle. And so my partner and I look at each other and say, search the vehicle. So now we really getting, our hearts are really pumping. And so he searched inside the vehicle, and he didn't find nothing. And so he went to his car, and then he brought a canine dog out. And so when we saw the canine dog out, our hearts are really pumping. And
Mm-hmm.
so now he walked around our vehicle with the canine dog, and the K and the canine dog alluded to the back trunk of our vehicle. And so he opened the back trunk of our vehicle, Miranda, and there that the state trooper discovered a black duffel bag. And so when he proceeded to open the back duffel bag, I said I knew we was in trouble. So he opened the black duffel bag, and he discovered almost $500,000 worth of cocaine. And so the state trooper immediately pulled his weapon on us. We
Mm-hmm.
were ready outside of the vehicle. He called for backup. They arrested us, put us in the police vehicle, and take us to the county jail.
What's going on in your head at the time? Like, what's
I
really going on?
At the time, what's going on in my head, we was on the side of the highway. It was a hot sunny day. I'm sweating. I'm stunned. I have a stunned look on my face, and I'm saying to myself, I don't actually believe this is really happening. And so I'm just stunned. Just have a stunned look, like, is this really happening?
Mm-hmm. How long did it question you guys before you had an opportunity to call somebody, your
Well,
family, and who was the first person you called?
they question us for a while. They separate us and they question us for a while. And one of the
What's
first
a while? What do you mean by a while?
couple hours,
Okay.
yeah, one of the first person I called was one of my sister, and I told her, I'm being arrested. We in the county jail, and they have us. And I'm sure it was a devastating news for her. And as she passed the news on to my siblings and family.
Hmm. So, how soon after they arrested you did you go to have a court hearing?
Well, when they interview us and question us, after that, they took us to the county jail, and we were in the county jail. I was in the county jail waiting to go to trial for almost about a year, in the county jail before we went to trial.
Oh yeah.
So
Okay. Don't go ahead too fast. So let's talk about you're in the county jail. What was that like on a daily basis? What was happening? Did your family get an opportunity to see you?
yeah, the county jail, Miranda, was a place where where individuals would come for any different kind of crime. So you would see guys go in and out, in and out. You might had a roommate probably for a day, for a night. He left, then another roommate come. He left. He left. So that was the kind of environment the county jail was. Being a foreigner in a strange country and being locked up in the county jail was sort of very interesting, because you don't know what to expect. And so I'm still thinking, how did I get here? I can remember many days, Amanda, not eating, not combing my hair. I'm looking like a joneser because I'm spooking out. Maybe I was at a point of freaking out because I'm still trying to figure out how did I got here.
How did you get there? Meaning you did something illegal. That's how
Right,
you
right.
got there.
Yeah. I
But you
understand
mean
that, but
like how did you
sometimes,
actually get caught?
yeah,
Or
but I'm still trying to play it out in my, you know what I'm saying? I'm still
sure.
trying to play it out in my mind. You
What was
know,
your routine like? Like the system? You woke up at what time and what
well,
was that like?
in the county jail, they have certain time that you go to bed. They have certain time that you wake up for breakfast, and they serve you lunch and dinner. Um, like 6 in the morning, they'll have breakfast. I would say around about 12 to 1, they serve you lunch, and around about 6 7, they will serve you dinner. And so they had an area where you can come out of your cell and watch TV and play cards, and where you interact with different individuals in the county jail. But as we talk about the county jail, Miranda, something very interesting happened while I was in the county jail, because um, even though my family came down and visit me, I was still trying to figure out, how can I get out of this.
Mhm.
And so, like I told you earlier, hearing my mother was telling me, that two things I want you to do: listen to your siblings, and put God first. So
Mhm.
one of the things I did was, I gravitated to the Bible. And I'm start reading the Bible, Miranda, and in my mind, I'm thinking that if I read this Bible, maybe God gonna get me out of this dilemma. Maybe God is gonna get me out of this situation. And so we were, I think about two, three of us was in the cell, and we were reading the Word of God, because we saying, at this point in time, we ready to do anything that is gonna seems that is gonna get us out of this situation. So
Mhm.
we reading the Word. We were desperate, and I remember this particular day, sort of like an evening. I think it was right after dinner. We were reading the word, and the prison officer usually make they count after so much hours. They'll make their rounds, and they will count to make sure that everybody is there. And this particular officer made his count, and after he made his count, Miranda, he came and opened our cell, and he looked at our three of us, and he says, "Wow, here it is." He said, "You three guys are reading the Word of God," and he said, "That's real good." And he said to us, he said, "I just want to ask you guys a question. Are you guys safe?" And we say, "No." and he asked us, "Do we want to be saved?" And we said, "Yeah." And I remember that day very, very vividly. Don't know his name, but I remember him leading us to God, and it was like 1999 that he led us to God. And and from 1999, Miranda, I haven't looked back yet. Now I still have to go to to court. I still have to go to trial.
Mhm.
Um, got saved, went to trial,
How
got
long
found.
after?
Say that again.
How long after did you go to trial after you got saved?
It was a couple of weeks after that. I went to court. The trial lasted about 2 to 3 days. Got found guilty and got sentenced to 136 months.
How much is that in years?
136 months is equivalent to 11 years and 5 months. I had to do 85% of that.
As you're sitting in that court and you hear this judgment, this sentencing, how did you feel?
When I heard the sentencing and saying guilty and the sentence, my heart just dropped because now I'm thinking about my family, and I also thinking about my fiance at the time, Miranda, who was 8.5 months pregnant with my son. And so here
Hmm.
it is. I'm getting a sentence for about 10 plus years, and I'm saying to myself, how I'm going to do this. And then the next question is she going to wait on me?
Yeah.
Or another man is going to be raising my son? So these are some of the questions was going through my head at the time, and I'm trying to figure out how is this going to play out.
So you get the sentence and you're transferred now to prison.
Yes, I got the sentence, and I transfer now to the federal prison. Yeah, that's where they say that's where the big boys go. That's where guys who got caught with big drugs, or who do embezzlements and or all of that stuff, they go. So now I go there, and now my first day I'm walking. They open up the door, and they tell me that they had different sections, A, B, and C, and they told me a building that you're going to. So when I'm walking on the compound with my bag across my shoulder with my towel and sheets and everything and toothpaste and brush, I'm saying to myself, "Wow, it's really happening."
Hmm. Is it
Yes.
like what we see on TV where you have to like strip and they check you out and then they give you the uniform? And is it like what we see?
Yes, I can remember the first time I got locked up, and during the times of my bid, they would strip you butt naked and check you and see that you have any weapons on you. I remember the first time that I went into the county jail, the officer told me strip, and he told me what he told me pull my cheeks, and I was like, pull my cheeks? What the I was like, what that was. Now, pull my cheeks, meaning that here it is, he's standing in the back of me, I'm butt naked, and I have to pull my behind so he can see if I have any weapons or anything. And so that was an uncomfortable position
Yeah.
for me. And here it is, a man looking at me, and I got to pull my cheeks. And I was like, wow, this is what I got to go through. And so it's very embarrassing. It's very, I mean, it wasn't nothing I want no one to go through. Yeah. So these are some of the things you go to. Anytime they transferring you or taking you to and from court, you have to strip because they're not sure that you're carrying a weapon. Somebody give you something. So that was the procedure. You had to strip. You had to take off all your clothes in front of these strange men that you don't know who you don't know.
Did you ever feel threatened that somebody wanted to attack you?
Well, Miranda, the federal system is one of those systems that are different from the state, and the reason for that is I had a sense of worrying about being attacked because you had different gangs in the federal system. One of the gangs, I don't know you familiar with it, it's called MS-13. That's one of the notorious gang. MS-13, I think, stands for Mexican and El Salvador. They connected. That's one of the notorious gangs behind prison bars. And then they had another gang called the Zopound. I don't know if you know, but the Zopound, that's a Haitian gang. And then they had a Jamaican gang called the Shower Posse. So that was always on my mind when I went to prison. But my early years in the prison, and my first time in the prison is I got some advice, because everyone who goes to the federal prison has to work. And so, since I was familiar with the kitchen and probably could do a little cooking, I asked to be in the kitchen. Reason for that is because that is something that I'm comfortable with, and another reason that you'll be able to eat what you want, fresh food on a daily basis. And so I started working in the kitchen, preparing the meals, helping preparing the meals for the inmates. And there was a brother from Savannah, Georgia. Me and him saw the click. We clicked. He had done years before me, about 16, 17 years, and he was getting ready to go home. And so he pulled me aside one day, and he called me Bahamas. When we in prison, they call you by your country name. Hey Bahamas, hey Jamaica, hey Colombia. And he called me Bahamas. He said, "Look here, man, let me share some information with you during the time that you hear that might cost you that so you can avoid trouble." He said, "There are some things I want you not to do." He said, "One, mind your business, right?" He said, "Two, don't gamble, because Miranda, if you do gamble and you can't pay your debt, it can end up in you getting killed, starve up, because you didn't pay, you owe me and didn't pay me. And three," he says, "don't fool with the TVs." We had TVs in all of the different parts of the sections. Spanish TV, they had about four different TVs. And the reason he told me that, Miranda, was because you had guys, that's how they did their time, by watching TV every single day. And I remember there was an old man, he would watch all my children every day for about 20, 16 years when it comes on. That's what he does. And so he said, don't mess with the TV. And he told me a story about a young guy who came in. He didn't know no better, and he went and changed the TV without asking anybody permission. And what happened was, one of the guys were watching the TV and saw the young guy change the TV, went into the mop room, screwed the mop head off, took the mop, came in the back of his head, and almost knocked and cut off all his hair, because he switched the TV without asking. That's how serious it was in the federal system. So you have they have the code in the system, some things that you do and some things that you do not do. And I was glad that he allowed me, and he was showing me what they call the game, and say, these are some of the things you don't do.
Mhm. How did you manage to stay out of gangs?
Say that again.
How did you manage to stay out of gangs?
Well, one of the things I did, I told you from early on in the county jail, I give my life to God. And one of the things I did is I got connected to some individuals that we had Bible study, and I go to church because I want to start learning about this God that I just got a relationship with, and so that's one of the things that draw me away from that type of environment, and connecting to individuals that who was doing like positive things in the federal system. Miranda, they had different classes. They had inmates who would teach different classes, who would teach art class, who would teach entrepreneur class, because now you have guys who are coming who are locked up from Fortune 500 companies. So by doing their time, they would teach the other inmates about small business, and some guys learn about investment and this and all of that. So I say to myself that, if I'm going to do this time, I'm going to do some positive things. And then you have some guys, Miranda, who would spend all of their time watching BET. And for me, that wasn't my thing, because I'm watching guys make money. Instead of myself, I could do something to learn. And so that's why what I try to do, try to stay around positive people who's going to build you up and not kind of tear you down.
So, what are some of the things that you did?
Well, one of the things that I did is I took a small entrepreneur class that a guy was teaching, learned a little bit about Entrepreneur 101. And one of the facilities that I went to, they had a culinary class. So I enrolled in that for a couple of months, and what happened was I got transferred. I wasn't able to complete it, because when you at a facility and you spend so much time, they transfer you to another facility because they don't want you to get comfortable with for that facility, because now you can probably manipulate the gods. You probably can have a relationship with the gods. So what they try to do is try to move you around so you don't become that comfortable. And so they'll call you tomorrow and tell you pack your stuff up, and you don't know, and you're on a bus somewhere else.
How often were you moved?
Well, I was moved about twice. I was in the Mississippi area, and then I moved to the Georgia area.
What was the worst of the experience that you recall?
Say that again.
What was the worst of your experience being in prison? What was the worst?
One of my worst was, you always see guys getting fights and everything, but I remember one time they had a riot. And this riot was, they had a lot of guys usually like to play soccer and stuff, and so I think two different nationality played soccer, and they had a big bet on the game. Yeah, they were betting thousands of dollars on the soccer game, and I think one group lost, and they didn't came up with the bat, and we were on the compound. The compound had different things where you lift weights, where you go play basketball, they play soccer. We was in the gym, and all of a sudden someone said, "Don't go outside." Someone closed the gym door, and I'm telling you, hundreds of guys was just fighting, shanking, stabbing up. You know, they had
Wow.
the prison officer had to sound the alarm. They came in, and guys would stab up, and they lock us down until they get to the root of the problem. So that was one of my. It's like, wow, it's serious.
How often did you get to communicate with your family while you were in there?
Well, I get to communicate with my family, Miranda, on a regular basis, because in the federal system, they had a phone system where you can put money on your phone, and you actually can call your family almost every day. And some guys spend all their money just calling their family. So I was in touch with my family on a regular basis. I started writing letters to my family and my fiance. As a matter of fact, I think I became a poet. My wife told me at the time, because I was writing a lot of letters, and I was writing a lot of promises to her and say, baby, when I come out, I gonna do this and that. And as a matter of fact, just the other day, she reminded me of some of those promises. She said, I still got them letters what you told me. I just want you to know when you was in there, you talking about you gonna promise to do this and this. I got them letters. So you need to man up to your promises.
Make good on your promises.
Yeah.
What was it that outside of your relationship with the Lord, what was it that kept you motivated each day? And what were you looking forward to most at the end of your sentencing?
Um, you know, what keep me motivated, Miranda, was during my time, uh, um, my relationship with God, I grew, and in a place of prison, a lot of individual lack hope. And here it is, even though I need encouragement, I would find myself with individuals coming to me and I'm encouraging them. And so that was something I look forward to. And maybe God was using me from behind bars. And one of my prayers uh, was that, God, if you get me out of this situation, I would do what you called me to do.
Hmm.
And so I remember praying that prayer, and as my time began to wind down, I would count actually the days and the months. And you would see individual who went home before you, and you would hear this one is going home, and the next one is going home, and I got 8 years, and I'm saying, wow, man, is this thing ever going to come down? And but I'm keeping positive. I'm keeping in the word of God. My family encouraging me, my fiance encouraging me. I'm doing positive things. And as I knew, my 8 years went to six, and my six went to two, my two went to months, and my months went to weeks. And now I'm saying I'm getting ready now to come home.
So, what was that like? Like the day when you were finally free? Like, describe that day you woke up, what was going on in your head, what was happening?
Well, it was a real excitement, for anticipating. My family was at the airport waiting for me to come home, but it was kind of sweet, but there was a throw in it, because when I came off the plane and when I came to immigration, there was some police officers waiting for me, and I was like, "What the heck?" I said, "What?" And so they wanted to see me, and I'm saying, "For what?" So they asked me some questions, and they saying, "We have a warrant for you for a traffic violation." I said, "Oh, traffic violation." And so here it is. They took me to the airport, the police airport, right there, and then I had to go in front of a judge. Now here it is. I'm coming home. I'm free, and these officers saying they got, and so I'm saying to my family that everyone is like stunned now and say, "What's going on, Denver?" It's like, I don't understand. I thought I took care of this. I paid this, and so we went. I went to court, and the judge saying this is what they helped me for, and I came back to court, and the prosecutor couldn't find the paperwork, and so the
Mm.
judge said, if you can't find the paperwork for this guy, when you come back, he's free to go. So here it was. We came back. I'm coming home. My family is waiting for me. The police officers are here talking about a traffic something. They couldn't find it. The judge threw it out. And so now it was sort of, I can feel relaxed. I'm home now. Get to see my family. Get to hug my my fiance at the time. When I came home, I asked my fiance where my son was, and she told me he was with his Grammy to Fowler Street. So here it is. I'm going to Fowler Street. He don't know I'm coming. At the time, I think he was, I don't know, about five, something like this. And so when I walked through the door and she told him who I was, he jumped into my arms. And so that was a moment that I would never forget. So now the bonding process is beginning.
What was that transition life? Now you're back in civilian life, you're back home in the Bahamas. What was different for you? Because you spent, was it 9 years in?
Yeah, almost about 10
9 years. So this
years.
is
Yeah,
nine
yeah.
years later. What are you noticing that's different 9 years later?
Well, for me to make the adjustment now, I have to learn trying to navigate on the streets. I'm trying to navigate myself back into society. I'm now trying to say, okay, Denver, you have a fiance, you have a son now that you need to provide for. So I'm looking far as employment is concerned, and so I wanted to do that as soon as possible, and so it was challenging at first because sometimes when people know that you have been locked up, they kind of be reluctant, to give you a chance, and so that was sort of a challenge for me. At first, but I remember one of my job was that I told you I used to go to culinary school, and one of the individuals that went to culinary school, he was an executive chef to one of the hotels on the Cable B Strip. So I find out he was, and I went to see him, and I sit down with him, and I said to myself, Denver, either you can lie to him, or you could talk straight up. Either he can give you the job or not. So I
Mhm.
decided to tell him the truth, and we had a discussion. I said, "Hey, man, I want to get back into this, and this is what happened. This is where I've been, and I want to see if you're going to give me a chance." He looked at me and he said, "Wow." He said, "You know something? Go get your NIB, go get your health certificate, and this is I'm going to give you a chance." In matter of days, I get all these things, and next thing you know, I'm in HR, ready to go to work in the field again.
That is
And I stayed there. I
interesting.
stayed there for about almost about 2 years. Yeah.
Mhm. What about the emotional and mental impact of being institutionalized and then finding yourself free? Was that something that you had to deal with?
Well, not really, because for me, Miranda, one of the things that I say this, and a lot of people might not understand this. For me, when God came into my life, it seems like the bondage was lifted. There's a scripture that says, "Who's the Son set free is free indeed," and I feel that that's something that was lifted. So I didn't struggle with that mental thing, because I remember during my time behind prison bars, you will hear a lot of scream. You'll hear big men screaming because they can't take the sense of them being locked up. But I always tell people that God allowed me to be free from behind prison bars. And that
Mhm.
was what I was. I could have sleep good. I could have lay down in my bed and feel like I'm free. Some individuals couldn't do that. But when I came home, my family was very concerned about me, and they they did something that I kind of questioned. So they allowed me to go see a counselor or something.
Mhm.
I forgot the gentleman name. I think his name was Dr. Barrett or something. and they want me to go see him just to, like what you say, to say, okay, you've been locked down. Maybe we need to make sure his mind is clear, that he's not, have
Hmm.
this effect of prison life on him. And I thought that was very interesting. I went there for about, I think, twice, and as I talked to the doctor, I was encouraging him. Hmm.
That's great. So you talked earlier about your father not being in your life. Let's talk about that story of reconciliation, because just how you were able to actually meet your son for the first time. Let's talk about the relationship with your father and how that has evolved over the years.
Yeah, growing up, like I said, my father wasn't in my life. My siblings, and I had the responsibility after my mother passed away of raising me. And I remember hearing about my father, and the very first time that I could remember seeing my father was at a funeral in Nassau. I think one of his brothers did pass away. I think his brother was a senator. And I remember my sister taking me to the funeral. And as they came out of the church, she introduced me to him. She said, "That's your pa right there."
How
And so
old? How old?
I was in junior school at the time, so I was between the age of 13 and 14, 15. And she introduced me to him, and the reception that I got, maybe that was a not a good time, but the reception that I got was not a good reception for me. And she told me, "Yeah, see, that's your pa right there." And I haven't seen him ever since. Didn't wanted to see him. Knew where he was, reside in another island, and didn't care that he was living or dead. I remember one Saturday before Father's Day. My friends and I, we were downtown. We was in one of a man's clothing shop, and I was looking at some shirts, and one of the sales lady says to me, "Say, man, this will be a good Father's Day gift for your father." So I looked at her and I said, "Miss, the only thing I got for him is he better duck." And she looked at me like, "Is that serious?" And say, "Yeah." So that sort of was the anger that I had in my heart for him, and trying to figure out why he was in there, and see all of my childhood friends have their father come home and grow up with their father, I'm in a house without my father. So a lot of animosity and anger was there. And not until I was behind prison bars, and one of my sister told me that she saw my father, and she said to me, "Why don't you write to your father?" And so she got the address for my father, and this is after I'm saved and everything. And I wrote to him, and actually just open up and let him know, "Hey, I'm changed now. I'm here because I made some mistakes, and it really doesn't matter what you have done or didn't do. This is a time I think we need to probably see if we can start bonding." And he wrote me back, and from then the bonding process started begin. I came home, and the very early months that I came home, I went to visit him. He lives in Freeport. I went to visit him and surprise him in Freeport. Went to his house. And as we see each other, we embrace, and we had hours, and we just talking, and we talking, and we talking. And here it is, the bonding between a father and a son is taking place. I mean, it was a special moment for me, because I believe, Miranda, every son wants to know their dad. They want to have that relationship with their dad. And here it is. He's been absent from my life for years. And now God is now bringing that relationship back together. Now that is the power of God. What He can do is to mend broken relationships back together. And as we continue talking, I was about to leave. I remember Amanda going into my pocket and giving my dad $100 and say, "Here, man, this is $100. I don't know what you need it for." And as he received $100, he broke down in tears. And the reason that he broke down in tears, Miranda, because my dad, I think he had diabetes, and he didn't know where he was going to get pay for his medicine. And here it is, the son that didn't have a relationship came and just give him $100. And I told him, this is a new day. It doesn't matter what you have done, what you didn't do. We are now
That's
bonded.
ministry and reconciliation. You're
Yes,
full of
and so
that.
now we are like two peas in the pot. I call him, and we have conversation. And I remember one Father's Day, I think about a year or two ago, I went to Freeport and I went to surprise him. I visit him on Father's Day weekend. I took my wife and I took my son, and we went to his church on Father's Day, Miranda. And there I was in church. He was there in the choir, and the pastor, one of the pastor of his church, Bishop Godfrey, came to find out he was one of my cousins. And I remember me connecting with my father and giving him a copy of my book in front of the whole church on Father's Day. That's something I never forgot. I think my son took pictures, videos of it from time to time. I still do it. I mean, it was a moment I never forgot. He got introduced to his grandson that he saw for the first time. So it was awesome, man.
That's beautiful. There have been so many comments. I don't know why I'm having this feedback, but beautiful Father says that's just like God. He can set you free in prison. Um, and she says the amazing grace of God works every time. Neil, hey Neely, how you doing? He said you got to be ready for that healing. That whole how did if you've thought about it, how has that connection with your father impacted your life and impacted you as a father to your son?
It impacted my life greatly because it was always seemed to me that for me a void was missing, because like I say, you want to have a relation. Every son want to have a relationship with their father, and so when that connection came, it made me feel, I guess, appreciative, made me feel good that now that I know who he is, I can have a conversation, we can talk, there's something I can do, for him. I'm here, so it was a good feeling.
Awesome. What are you doing now? Are you still in the culinary? What are you doing now?
Uh, well, now, I told you earlier, I wrote a book. One of the things I'm doing now, my book is From Prison to Purpose. The Denver Pratt story is to see how I can promote it more, not just locally, but on the international stage. Um, I'm connected to Prison Fellowship Bahamas, is an organization being around for 20 years, where they go inside the prison and speak and encourage the men there. Been a part of Prison Fellowship for about 6 years, and for about 2 years now, we have a transitional home where we have individuals that come from out of prison that stay in our transitional home for about up to 12 or 18 months, and we get them ready for society from anywhere where we do life skills programs, where we do spiritual programs, and small entrepreneur programs 101 to build them up. And I've been the director of the home now for going on for 2 years. So that come underneath my portfolio. And so that is something that I'm excited about, because now the guys can relate to me, because I understand what it is to be behind prison bars. It's not easy, because you're dealing with individuals now who coming from out of prison, and they have a lot of issues. Some of them dealing with some different habits, far as drinking and smoking, and you want to kick them out, but God has extended grace to me, so we have to extend grace to them. And
Mhm.
so we try to get them support, and we try to encourage them, we work with them, and so to let them know that, hey, look here, man, there's a change, and it's not going to be overnight, but we see some changes that has taken place. We have some who have already left the home, and now that on their own, who have married, some have small businesses, some are working. So God is doing a work. We sit on about 2.6 acres. There's a farming aspect of it that we just implemented. So we're teaching the young men at the home how to grow their own vegetables, and so they can be self-sufficient. So these are some of the things that we are doing at the a transitional home.
Okay, Percy Wallace says, "What an empowering story. Bahamian young people, especially young men, need to hear the story to purchase the book. Where can she get a copy of the book?"
Well, the book is you can get it from Amazon, or you can contact me at 448-1675. That's 242 for those who are out of the country. 448-1675. I'll be happy to give you a copy, and the copy of the book is only $10.
Only kind. So, what are the key messages? I know the book is about, or I believe the book is about your experience being in the prison and on to your purpose. But what is the key message, if there is one, in this book that you really want to resonate with the readers? What is that key message?
I think the key message, Miranda, for my readers, and especially the men and the young men in particular, is that you can learn from my mistakes. You don't have to go down the road that I went to. You can read my book. You can listen to my story, and don't make some of the mistakes that I have made. And that's one of the reasons that I wanted to put it in a book, that someone who picked this book up can read it and say, something. I see the mistakes that Denver made, and I would deter from some of those things and don't go down the same road that he went to.
In hindsight, outside of having your father in your life on a day-to-day basis, what are some of the things that you would have done differently as a child?
Okay, you say what I would done differently.
Rather than going and seeing the, I want to say, all the hype and everything that the drug guys had,
Mhm.
and that being your draw. What, in hindsight, what would you have done differently? Like, what path? Because there may be women listening right now who have, preteen sons and teenage boys who may be struggling with the exact same thing. Somebody may watch the show and may be struggling with, what should I do? So what would you have done differently, and what do you say
Well,
to them?
One of the things, if they're listening to the show, is with a young man, one of the things that I would probably do differently, that I believe that is important, is having the right mentor in your life, the a positive mentor, and pursue my dreams. My One of my dreams was, and probably still is to become an executive chef. And so that still is in the back of my mind, and that's something that I think I'm going to pursue, because I do most of the cooking in my home. My wife can tell you she enjoyed all the dishes that I cook. You know, she don't even get comfortable in the kitchen no more. She just wait until I bring her the food. So that's always in the back of my mind. So that's something that I'm thinking I want to go uh, 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 after again. I still believe I'm 51 years young, so I still believe I have a lot of time to go ahead and do that. And yeah, and pursue your goals, man. There are three things, Miranda, when I go and speak to young people and young men in particular, that I always try to tell them that try to pursue. Is one is identity. Miranda, you see, one of the problems that we're having in our society today is a lot of our young men is trying to get involved in gang activity. And lately, we had an incident where we had about six young men lost their lives. And so, one of the things that is missing from our young men is trying to find their true identity in life. And Miranda, the only way you're going to find your true identity in life, you have to get with the one that created you. That's the only way you're going to find your true identity. He
Mhm.
created you, and so he know why he created you. So that means you're going to have a relationship. You see, with God, the Bible tells us in the book of Genesis, I believe 1 and 26 and 27, it says, you and I were created in the image and in the likeness of God. So that tells me that we should have characteristics of God. And then secondly, I think every the young man needs to know their purpose in life. Everything God created, he created with a purpose. So you need to find your purpose in life. And then thirdly, destiny. Where are you going to end up? Where are you going to end up in life? I told the young man, every time I go behind prison bars, prison is not your destiny. This just is a chapter in your book. And so I always try to so they can hear that over and over. This is not your destiny. So those three things that I think that if our young men gravitate to them, I believe it will make a difference in their life. Identity, purpose, and destiny.
How do you get that message to that preteen boy like you at that age? So how do you get the message to them so that they don't even get to the prison? How do
What,
you
what
get that to them?
I believe in books like what I write. I know sometimes some of the guys might read a book, and how do we get the message to them is by having an invitation, or going into the schools, speaking to them, going into the neighborhood, and maybe one on one. One of the things that I always say that is lacking, Miranda, is that I always hear prominent man, businessmen always say they grow up in a certain area. They came from this area. And I always ask myself, did you go back and make a deposit into some young man life from the area you went? So if each one, you could imagine if each one of us was to say, I'm going to take one boy, and I'm going to make sure be his mentor, make sure that he graduate from junior school, high school, and go to college and get married. I think that will make a difference in this country. I believe, Miranda, too many of us are selfish. We're just looking out for our own, but we're not looking out for the neighbor's son. That is, we see him from small going the wrong way, and no one say, "Look here, man. I can make sure that little journey don't end up in prison or end up dead." So if we was to take that approach, Miranda, I believe we can make a difference in our country.
It's awesome. Carolyn Dawson says, awesome show. Arlington Butler. Wow. Hannah says, go for it. Talking
Yeah,
about
that's
becoming
one of
that
my big.
executive chef.
That's one of my big brothers.
Absolutely. Go for it. You can definitely do it. Bila May Fowler says, God takes delight in taking a mess and making a message. And Myrna Victoria says, a story that young man should hear and relate to. Free in your mind, even in prison, and came out with a purpose to help others. What a selfless attitude to have. Blessings on you, Mr. Pratt.
Hmm.
Blessings on you. And I believe that is the key. If each one would reach one, I mean, that's
Yeah,
the
yeah,
evangelistic message that has been out there for so many years, and particularly our boys are in trouble. Our
yeah,
world
yeah.
is in trouble, and
Right.
definitely our boys are in trouble.
Hmm.
And they need more men stepping up and catching them at the age where it started with you.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah.
good to have the rehabilitative um, um, programs in place, but we don't have to rehabilitate them if we get them before they actually need it. And I believe that there has to be so much more emphasis being placed in that pre adolescent age to be there. And that's why I believe organizations like the Boys Brigade and the Boy Scout and those things, the mentorship for boys are so important because they
Right.
need to be in those environments that have those mentors in place and volunteering. I don't know how popular those organizations are nowadays, but I had three brothers and they were definitely in Boys Brigade and they did the drilling and participated in the band and all those different things that I believe, helped to shape them as young men in some way because my father, we didn't live with him at the time. And so in their earlier years,
Hmm.
they worked with him, and those are the organizations that they were involved in. So
Right.
you are doing an absolutely awesome job in the message of your book and getting it to be able to talk to those boys at that
Hmm.
age because you can actually your story is so powerful because you can put yourself in their shoes because you know what it is to be a 12-year-old boy, a
Hmm. Hmm.
13-year-old boy looking and searching for a connection,
Right.
being able to so you can get into their headspace and
Mhm.
talk about all those things, and then you're doing an equally as powerful job working with these men out of prison because you are what we call like a double threat. You are a double threat. Your story, and I don't even know if you even realize the magnitude of your story
Hmm.
and the power of the message that you bring to the world to be able to help to curb and to stop and to intercept some of these young boys before they get to the point where they have to come to your halfway house or for whatever it's called before they even have to come there
Hmm.
to be able to speak to them. Your story is really powerful. Any parting words as we wrap up tonight's show?
Yeah, Miranda, what I want to say, I want to thank to all of my family and my siblings who were there for me during my time that before and after I was behind prison bars. I want to say thank God to all of them, my sisters and my brothers. All of them played a vital part in my life. I also want to say thanks to my fiance at the time and now my wife. Charlene, who has stood by me. Someone told me, Denver, they don't make those women no more. She actually stayed. She waited for you for 10 years. So actually, she is actually the star of the show. She waited for me for 10 years. So I'm very appreciative, and I thank God for that. And one of the things I asked her a question, I said, why you waited for me for 10 years? And she said, let me tell you, let me keep it real with you. It wasn't me, it was God. It was God. So, many times she said she wanted to move on, but she said, you know what? I'm in this for the long haul. It was God. So I thank God for her. I thank God for my family, and also to my pastor, Pastor Daniel Nordich, who has been an inspiration in my life. Also, he's preaching a message, a serious Miranda, for this whole month that. They call it intentional. Sometimes in life we have to be intentional about some things, and it's a powerful message that he's preaching, and he has blessed my life spiritually. So I thank God for him. And just to say, for those of you who might be having some issues with your kids, or they might be challenged. If you feel that you want to reach out to me, I'll be happy to intervene and sit down with them and see how we can make a difference. And so reach out to me at 448-1675. Or at Denver Pratt at gmail.com. And so, also, last but not least, Miranda, I want to say thanks to you for inviting me to be on your platform. I thank you. When I first heard about you, and someone told me about I was getting a call, we initially first spoke, and I say, let me do some research on her. And I say, wow, this she in the big leagues. This ain't no overnight something. I was like, wow, So I thank God for you. You're doing some awesome things, and I know that God is going to use you to propel you to the next level. So thank you for entertaining me, for being here on Swerve.
Thank you. My pleasure. I wanted you to speak to your son, speak into your son's future in the
Mhm.
hearing of all of us, and the type of man that you see him becoming. So, and as you speak to your son, you're speaking into the lives of other young boys out there.
Yeah, to my son, as I wrote the book, I told him I dedicate this book to him. He is definitely an awesome individual that is God is going to use in a mighty way. He is in college now. He has a year and a half left. We are trying to get him back in college, and so that I just want him to know that Daddy is proud about him. He knows my struggles. He knows where I come from, and he understands that in life that sometimes we make some mistakes, but at the end of the day, I just want him to know that Daddy would always love him no matter what, and I'm cheering for him, and he's going to be doing great and mighty things, because that's what the Bible says. We must speak those things that as not as though they were. So I'm very proud of him, and I'm sure that great things are going to be coming in the future for him.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you to my audience for always supporting every Sunday, week after week, as we share these amazing stories of people who have overcome their challenges and who are not afraid to show their scars and speak their truth. Denver, thank you for your transparency. Thank you for sharing
Mhm,
your story with this
mhm.
audience. And may you find good success in everything that you do. God bless. Thanks for watching. Good night, everybody.
Thank you.